Hi, everyone. My special guest today is one of my former UCLA students, David Orenstein. He took both my Intermediate 1 and Intermediate 2 classes back in 2020 and 2021. Fast forward to today, David now works in forensic accounting at Baker Tilly in their Denver office. David, it's great to see you again. Now, before we get started, I have to ask you a question. If my memory serves me right, our paths might have never crossed at UCLA. I recall you emailed me for an ad code into my Intermediate Accounting 1 class because my class was full. Now, I responded back by saying I don't give out ad codes because my class policy has always been that students have to at least get on the wait list on their own in order to get into my class. However, I recall you wouldn't take no for an answer. You kept emailing me back over and over again. You kept following up to see, in a very nice way, by the way. You kindly followed up with me to see if you can get into my class. But in my mind, I'm thinking this guy's relentless. David must be a troublemaker. Now, fortunately, you were eventually able to get into my class on your own because there was some movement on my roster, and you turned out to be a fantastic student. I even asked you to be my teaching assistant for a couple of quarters afterwards. Now, David, is that story true, or did I confuse you with someone else?
Yep, that story is true. Thank you very much for having me today, Professor Liu. And I'm so glad I was so persistent to get into your class because it's been a great experience having you as a teacher and now as a mentor in my career.
All right, wonderful, great. Now, I don't want other students to be like you and keep emailing me. But again, I was happy. You turned out great. You turned out to be a wonderful student. So now I get to ask you some questions. These questions will be to help my students decide if the career path that you're on is something right for them. So I want to ask you by starting off, could you briefly talk about your firm, Baker Tilly? I just know several of my students got hired by them, and they are one of the 10 largest accounting firms in the world. Also, I know one of their senior recruiters in the LA office, Garrett Shackstad, who's a great guy, by the way. I made several YouTube videos with him already. So could you please share with me some more information about your firm?
Yep. So, yes, I believe Baker Tilly is the 10th largest accounting firm in the world. Our services are broken up into audit, tax, which is actually where I joined the firm as a tax intern after meeting Garrett Shackstad in my junior year at UCLA, and consulting, which is the umbrella I now fall under. Baker Tilly has a particularly strong emphasis on consulting and advisory, and the firm actually brands itself as the advisory CPA firm of the future. Over the past few years, the firm has been quickly growing through acquisitions, which is actually how the forensic accounting practice joined Baker Tilly in 2018. And both our forensic accounting team and the firm as a whole have a global presence, which provides for unique opportunities and work-life balance that we'll address more later on. But overall, Baker Tilly is continuously recognized as a great place to work on various lists, and it offers great benefits, including covering CPA exam fees, materials, and a bonus for passing within a year.
Now, what is a typical day like for you working in forensic accounting?
Yeah, so actually, one thing I really enjoy about my career field is that there is no set typical day. Within our forensic accounting practice, we have litigation, valuation, and insurance teams that I support. And the typical work for each of those teams really looks different. While my day-to-day work can really vary, though, I'm typically doing some combination of working in Excel using financial models, reviewing documents like financial statements or legal agreements, or writing up a report or a list of questions for a client.
I have to ask you about work-life balance because it's always something on the mind of students. So I know in audit and tax that the work is cyclical. And there's going to be a busy season where people work 60 to 80 hours during some of those weeks. Is that something that happens in your line of work in forensic accounting? And also, the second part of this question is, can you get to work from home most of the time?
Yep. So our work is definitely not cyclical to the extent of audit and tax service lines, and we really have no set busy season. Rather than having regulatory deadlines for tax returns or audit reports, our work is driven by either court deadlines or just client needs. So with that being said, my hours tend to be pretty consistent throughout the year. At times, we'll be asked to work 45, maybe 50 hours, but I've been very fortunate to avoid working those 60+ hour weeks. And like I mentioned earlier, our team is global, so it's nice that we can pull in resources from across the world in different time zones to continuously be working on bigger projects. And another perk of our team being global is the opportunity to work with people from all over the country without needing to work in person. I work almost exclusively from home, but I do work with people from all over the country. And I've even worked with people in Canada, the UK, and Chile. I really enjoy working from home and saving myself from commuting and buying lunch and all those little costs that do add up. And I enjoy being able to work on projects from all over and not just being limited to whatever opportunities are in Denver.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. That makes your line of work even more attractive. Wonderful. Now, something else I wanted to ask you is, I know for people who work in audit and tax at the top accounting firms, they need to eventually pass a CPA exam and get licensed. What about in your line of work?
Yes, CPA licensure is definitely still relevant in my line of work, and it's encouraged by my team, but it's not seen as quite the prerequisite that it is in other service lines. Many leaders within our practice do have CPAs, but others are not CPAs. And instead of other certifications like CFE, which is Certified Fraud Examiner, or CFF, Certified in Financial Forensics, I personally chose to become a CPA and actually passed my exams last year because I knew the certification would really help my career, whether I stayed in forensic accounting or went into another line of work in the business world.
Oh, that's great. Congratulations on passing a CPA exam. So hopefully my class was able to help you play a role in that, at least for the FAR part. Now, suppose after watching this video, my students say they want to go into forensic accounting and be just like you. Is there anything they should do while they're still in college to be better prepared for this line of work?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say, and this really goes for any accounting career, is just try your best to tackle those CPA education requirements. When I decided that the CPA career path was for me, I was able to start loading up on credits and reach that 150 unit requirement before I graduated. Other than that, I would just try to talk to people as much as possible in the field. There are plenty of recruiters and professionals on LinkedIn that would happy to connect over the phone, share their experience. Because really, nobody's going to expect you to come out of college with forensic accounting experience. So I would just recommend trying to learn as much as possible. So that way, in interviews, you could really show a passion and a knowledge of the field.
Finally, I always ask my guests this question. Can you share with my viewers your top 3 tips for success, whether it be in college, at work, and or in life in general?
Sure, I'd love to. My first tip would just to be as patient, just to be patient as you enter your career. Coming out of college where everything is measured in weeks and these short-term deadlines, it definitely took some time for me to adjust to working full time and being okay with some things just taking longer amounts of time. I came out of college very ambitious, wanting to quickly grow in my career, but it's helped me to be patient and allow myself and opportunities longer time horizons to develop. Second thing I'd say is to say yes to every opportunity you get and to not be afraid to ask for opportunities too. I've been able to work on some really cool projects just by simply asking if there was an opportunity for me to help. I've also been asked if I could take on different roles and work with different teams. And even when I've been hesitant, I've always said yes to those opportunities. And that's actually how I've been able to push myself outside of my comfort zone and experience new things at work, which have helped me grow in my career. And my final tip is to just communicate with the people you work with and even the people in your life outside of work. Kind of going back to my last point, sometimes saying yes to opportunities also means setting expectations of the extent or the timing you can help. There are plenty of times where my way of saying yes is, yes, I'd love to help, but I also have another project to wrap up with before I can jump onto that. And also, the accounting field can just be pretty demanding. So I found it helpful to let my friends and family know when I'm going to be busier with work, so that way they understand when I'm not making plans or calling them as often.
Hey, David, I really appreciate you coming to do this video with me today. It was a pleasure being your former professor. I'm glad you're doing well and enjoying your career in forensic accounting. Next time I go to vacation in Denver, we should meet up so we can have lunch together.
Thank you, Professor Liu. It's been great talking to you, and I'm looking forward to that lunch.